Hi guys, welcome to the so far nameless podcast because we're still trying to figure out a name for this. But I'm Sarah B. If you guys don't know me already, I do a whole bunch of different things. I don't have just a one. I'm a jack of all trades, I like to say. And then this is Araceli. She's my guest today, and she is a kindergarten teacher now, or is it pre? Yeah. So we're gonna talk about some stuff and things, and just kind of jump in to everything that's going on. Adeseli, do you want to introduce yourself, tell people about yourself a little bit?
Sure. I'm Adeseli. I'm 25. We live in Texas,
Mm-hmm.
El Paso, Texas, a different part of Texas.
Yeah.
And we just thought we'd create a podcast so we can talk about things, whatever's going on in the world, or just stuff that we want to talk about. And that's why we're here.
Yeah. It'll be fun. So we always have really deep conversations. I know that sounds so but ever since we met, I think our first actual encounter was us having just deep ass random conversations in a hotel in Paris, and it was the greatest. I know that sounds so bougie, but it was really fun because the hotel really wasn't that bougie. It was decent, but it was one of those oh, you're studying abroad kind of hotels.
Yeah, it was scary. There was a dude outside my window at one point.
Yeah.
And I think you're right, because we had this food that our professor had gotten us, and I'm pretty sure it was meat. Pretty sure I ate meat that day.
It was the meat. See, that's where you messed up. Honestly, that's where you messed up.
Life just made a turn after that.
For sure.
What is it called? The culture reset was when.
Yeah, you're just insert Raven Simone meme where you're just wait a minute. Well, yeah. So we've known each other. What? It's coming up on 5 years already. I think since 2015. Oh yeah, 5 years officially. This week, actually, we would technically be in Paris and London. So
maybe today was the day that we had that deep conversation.
There we go. Oh my God, I wouldn't doubt it. I would not doubt if that was today's date. That would actually be really cool. That's so funny. That what?
I think it's possible. We both have that serendipity, telepathic, psychic thing going on.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's definitely true. So we wanted to one of the main reasons why we were thinking about this podcast is, especially with everything going on right now, I think it's a good time to have a conversation, especially from a Latinx perspective, where we're both light complected, I would say. So we do it's we pass, you know what I mean? We've had very different experiences as far as microaggressions and stuff like that. But I think it's good to have that conversation from this perspective. When I see a lot of the Latinx people that just kind of are well, this really isn't our problem, but it is our problem, and we have to make it our problem. So if you have been living in a rock or under a rock in a hole somewhere, and you don't know what's going on, a lot of the protests right now are surrounding the police brutality that's going on in this country and has been going on since the inception of the police department. And I just feel like right now is kind of a really good time. I'm one of those people that's oh, everything has a purpose and everything, whatever. Some things are they have no purpose, but I feel like the pause that we got during the coronavirus kind of gave us the ability to stop and sit and think and be hey, shit's fucked up, yo. And then with the murder of Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and George Floyd and countless others, enough is enough. So Adeseli, do you want to jump in with anything that's been on your mind, especially recently?
I just the same thing you said. I think it's been boiling up. I mean, a lot of people are saying oh, why is this happening now? But it's always been happening. Just like everyone's saying, it's been happening for a long time. Now we have the opportunity to actually have the power for, I guess, people to listen, and then the backing of more people because of the outreach. So I think it's important to talk about it, just like you said. And then also the fact that we're giving a different perspective that's not white or black. We're Latin girls, so
yeah, it's especially difficult for me to see. I went to school to kind of give background, in a predominantly white neighborhood. So I was one of very few Mexicans or Mexican Americans that went to my school. The other family is actually a part of my family now, so she's married to my brother. So we have that experience as far as knowing what it feels, to be kind of an outsider. But the reason why I'm bringing that up is I'm seeing a lot of friends from high school that are predominantly white, that are kind of just passing over everything. And I wanted to get your opinion on I guess, the difference between like silence, and complacency versus like silent activism. And how do you feel about that?
Okay, so I have a lot of thoughts.
Yes.
So I feel like I see a lot of people that are silent,
Mhm.
especially like family or people on Facebook that are just posting like everything's normal. They haven't said one thing about anything.
Yeah.
Or or even in reality, like real life when I'm talking to people, they don't bring it up or seem like, oh well that's like kind of like you said earlier, it's not my business, so I'm not gonna say anything on it. Or they just think like, oh, that's just happening and they'll blow over. But I think I think it's important to be vocal because if you're not vocal, then you're not being helpful to anyone.
Mhm.
So that's why I know you are and I am, and a lot of people that we're friends with are very vocal because if we're not, then that's one less voice, kind of like with voting. It's one less voice that's out there giving the information or speaking up for others that need to be spoken for because I think the more variety of like cultures that are standing together for this will be super helpful. So instead of staying silent because it's not your problem or you think it's not going to help, is just not the right thing to do. You need to speak up because the more people that do, the more people are going to listen. And then the other thing we're speaking up about it, maybe through donating money or doing posts, going to protests, like anything that you do is super helpful. But I think the most important part is to let your opinion or how you feel be known because if you're just being silent, then maybe people are not going to know where you're coming from or what you believe and then they're going to think maybe that you're not a part of it or you're thinking something else when really like how you really feel like deep inside is that you want to speak about it and you should.
Yeah, exactly. I think back to I don't know if you watched the Taylor Swift documentary, I'm sure you did.
I did.
When she yeah, when she talks about like when she has that kind of interaction with her dad and she's pretty much like this is enough, like I need to speak on something political at the time, but having her voice as, knowing that she's a person of influence and has the ability to reach like millions of people and have them, understand that this is what I think is right. Whether or not you think it's right is completely up to you, but this is what I believe in and so forth. Um and to kind of segue off of that, I had a conversation with my sister-in-law who is also Latinx, and she was kind of having this like this kind of internal conflict where she was saying like I just feel like I don't have anything to add to the conversation, and I feel like I know where I stand and I don't think I have to necessarily put it out there. But I think what you said is perfect because it's not so much about like adding to the conversation. Even if you feel like okay, I've said everything that needs to be said, or it's like everybody else is basically saying what I think, but I think bringing awareness in a like a tree formation is such a big deal. You have one person, oops, you have I know 5 people, but they're not the same 5 people that you know what I mean? So it's like my post might reach one of those 5 people that had no idea what was going on. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I believe the same thing. And like I had posted when the whole rioting began.
Mhm.
I posted about how is it that you're more upset over a building that can be rebuilt, replaced, like there's insurance, all that, than a life? And that was just from my own brain, my personal thing. And then I just started seeing it everywhere. So
Yeah.
it's like you need to get your opinion out there, even if you think, oh, people are gonna think this is silly or why should I contribute? That's just silly what I just thought. But like then you see it everywhere and you're like, wow, I should have said that. And then also like you said, when more people join in, it gives a bigger voice.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's just so like it's really important right now that there is like such a big difference with like generations. You know what I mean? Like our parents' generation is so different from like Gen Zers generation because their parents are basically like only a generation ahead of us, you know what I mean? So in a weird, not to put like so much emphasis on millennials, because I know everybody gives a shit, but it's like we really do have that like connection between the differences of like the boomers and like the baby boomers and the like Gen Zers. We kind of relate to both, and also like Gen X. You know, Gen X has always been the generation that's kind of just like, guys, like, can we have to stop fighting? But I don't know. I've been having a lot of, or I've seen a lot of exchanges with like my older family members or like my boyfriend's family, where it's like they really just don't understand what's going on. And I don't know, like, how do you navigate talking to family that's one that you're barely getting to know? Because again, I'm barely getting to know my boyfriend's family. And then also knowing like having these conversations with current family members that for the most part they understand, like, okay, we shouldn't say all lives matter. Um, but they still kind of really don't understand the depth of that, of what's actually the problem. Have you had any kind of like conversations like that with your family?
So you do know of one of, and I'll share it.
Mhm.
So there was a situation with like my boyfriend's mom, which you know about, and that what makes that even harder is that she is my boss. So it has that double thing. Like she's not my mom, but she's the mom of someone I love, and then
Mhm.
she's my boss. So she like gives me a job, right? So it's like, how do I like tell her that? How do I communicate with her in a way that's respectful, but still at the same time like telling her that the phrase she used, all lives matter, is not helpful and it's actually harmful,
Yeah.
especially as someone who works in the education field. Like you need to not be saying that sort of thing, because we need to be able to lift up our black students, which the school I work at has a lot of them, because we have a lot of military, so there's a lot of black families, and we employ a few black. There's a black assistant principal, black teacher, and from what I see, like the new black teacher, she is very vocal, like me. And the sad thing about my school is that not a lot of people are vocal. I might be the only one,
Yeah.
um, which is really sad. But it doesn't scare me. Like I know that I'm I'm believing in something that's for people. Like a lot of people like to say it's political, but it's really not. It's just like I think that everyone should have a right to live, everyone should feel safe, and there should be like the police should be held to a higher I guess what is the word I'm looking for?
Standard or like
Right?
ethical code or something. Yeah.
So when I saw that post, I'm like, okay, should I how should I do this? Should I just like turn away and pretend I didn't see it, which is what most people might do, right?
Hmm.
But I decided maybe I should just try. So I commented on it in a really respectful way. I'm like, I understand that you're saying this from like a place in your heart that you believe that everyone deserves it and it's a good place. Like you said it with good intentions, but this is why it's hurtful. And this is why it's important that we say Black Lives Matter, because we have our Black students there able to distinguish that our other students that aren't black are able to distinguish, like when we say that black lives matter, it doesn't diminish their shine, it doesn't diminish their worth just because we have the spotlight on another person. I
Hmm.
teach this to my students all the time. It's kind of like like when another student gets attention or they want a game, it's not like, well, what about me, what about me? I teach them like, no, you're happy for your friends, or you take care of your friends.
Yeah.
It's not about you all the time. And I think that's something that people are missing. They just want to make everything about them. And when it doesn't relate to them, well, oh well, like it doesn't relate to me, so like I don't care about it or
Yeah.
something. It's important that like I teach little kids, they're 5, 6, that if they can get it, like why can't grown adults get it, right?
Mhm.
Just because it doesn't have to do with you, or just because it's not including everyone, doesn't mean it's taken away from you.
Yeah.
It's actually helping you in a way.
Exactly.
I told her all that, like it doesn't diminish their shine. They're able to understand that even at a young age, because I know that little kids, they might not get the credit they deserve, but they're really smart and they can understand things beyond what we believe they can.
Kids pick up so much. Yeah.
They really do.
They
And so that's
do.
why I always like I low key have all these books about like diversity and all of that, because it really they cling on to it, and
Hmm.
it really absorbs into them that like my classroom, everyone's friends. We don't even it doesn't even matter.
That's nice.
Like, oh man. Like I love the pictures they draw because they draw everyone with different colored skin and everything, and it's just like from that age, like they just don't even care. Like it's something that like they don't see, like believe in, like it's what this person's this color. It's great.
Yeah.
Like so anyway, so I came to her with that, and she didn't respond to me for a few days, and then she replied like, "Oh well, I've been on this earth for a lot longer,
Mm.
and this is what I believe in," and so and so. So I was kind of sad, disappointed, kind of okay. Well, I tried, you know. At least I said something. And then a few days later, she deleted her post, and she had messaged her son, which is my boyfriend, that she's actually going to start researching more about the topic because she says that she needs to learn more before she says something like that. And I
That's
think
great.
that's all you can ask for, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think when it comes to family members or people that you might think it's difficult to speak up to,
Hmm.
maybe just try coming at it from a respectful way, because I see a lot of people coming at it from like an argumentative
Yeah,
place.
and that will get you literally nowhere because people just go on the defense, right? It's
Yes.
something that I see all the time, and I mean, there's I won't name drop or anything like that, but there's people on our mutual friends list. Um, but it's just like I understand the passion. I think it's great, and I think sometimes you do need to have this like fervor for the, for the movement and just passion. And I think that's awesome. But I think when you're coming from a perspective of, look, like I already know, like if you go in knowing I'm not going to change your mind, like
Yes.
I'm not trying to change your mind, then I think it kind of reshifts the focus of what you're trying to tell them from the start. Like you with your boyfriend's mom, I feel like you kind of went at it as like a, this is, you should probably do a little bit more research, just educating you a little bit on this. I'm not bashing you for your, for your beliefs, but this is where we're at this point in time. You know what I mean? And I think that's
Yeah.
really important. No,
I think
I agree.
yeah, it definitely. I think that's the thing that people need to start working on, how we speak to others about certain issues, because they're sensitive, and
Oh my gosh, yeah.
that's something they believe they're right. Even people that say the blue lives matter, all lives matter, they think they're right,
Mhm.
and deep down in their hearts they're right, right? I believe in these cops. They're good people. I met one. He changed my tire the other day.
Yeah.
But it's like you need to step outside of yourself and see what's happening to others, back to that.
No, exactly. Exactly. I actually had an exchange with, going back to the like friends. So she's white. But she had reached out to somebody else, and this person, I won't name drop, but she's very it's just very apparent that she leans more Republican, which I don't bash because I grew up Republican, so I understand a lot of the belief systems. Of course, I'm not. I was like, that's a whole other topic for another day, but
Yeah,
it's just not the same as it was when I was growing up. So, but I understand like her opinions on a lot of topics are very right leaning. So it's just very apparent she's Catholic. It's kind of not to throw Catholics in that mix, but just to kind of give you an image of this person. And she kind of approached me, and she was, a little hesitant to ask me about one of the posts that was basically like all cops are bastards. And she's like, well, I've seen her actually post a lot of things about the movement, which I think is a big jump from when I first met her. I honestly didn't even think that she would have anything to say, but she's been one of the loudest ones on my posts from friends from high school. And this was one thing that she was like, I don't agree with this, and I don't think that, that we should kind of generalize everybody like this, whatever, right? But the thing is that I agree with her. I've been on the side of saying, and I've stopped people and said, like, look, just because you see a cop, they're not all bad. But I understand also the difference in saying that, sure, not all cops are bad, but that is not conducive to the movement right now. I think the conversation needs to understand that even though there are, at this point, it seems like there's a select few of cops that are good cops, we need to realize that if they went in with any intention to change the system or whatever, which is the argument that I've used before, because I have said to friends where I've said, maybe you see a lot of like minority or people of minorities joining the police force with hopes of changing it. But then doing more research after saying this comment, I realized that there's stories upon stories from minority cops that say, we went in with this intention and they don't let you at like budge basically. They essentially just try to beat it out of you. Not, I don't know if literally or not, but like, you know what I mean? Like that, I don't know. But it's gotten to the point to where they're basically like, look, we're trying, but there's not really much we can do when this system is so deeply rooted in racism and hatred, and and there's just so much that they neglect to put into account. So when I was talking to this friend, I kind of came from the angle of like, look, I appreciate that you're trying to learn more about this, which is really easy when you have people like that, right? Not everybody is that receptive. Not everybody's going to sit here and be like, oh, teach me all the things. They're going to be like, nope, I'm right and you're wrong and I'm big and you're small, you know? But, but she genuinely was just, very open, and I honestly, we had this long conversation. I was like, look, and after a while, not going to lie, I got tired of the conversation because
It was
from
just
it's just, yeah, it's very like cyclical, right? Where she's just like, but what about this and what about this? And I'm like, look, at the end of the day, and I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it again, you're white and your responsibility right now is to shut up and listen and to help advocate. And I get it, like you're trying to learn, you're trying to, but anything that's not going to be conducive to the movement right now, just please do not try to derail things that are going on. And with like the so-called like rioting and stuff like that, I 100% understand what's going on. I've seen people even who are like of the Latinx community on my own Facebook that are like, well, I don't understand, this is so ghetto, and I fucking hate that word, by the way. I hate,
when you said it, like the whole
yeah,
vibe.
right, it's like, oh, like no, it's not ghetto. Like I've used the word ghetto but not in a way of like, I don't know, I just feel like the word, like attaching it to a certain race, and it's usually black people, it's like, do better, come on, like don't do better, like you're just calling them ghetto because why. So I had to stop and be like, listen, if someone, let's say some random ass dude came and like killed one of your family members, and then you went to court, nothing happened, or they didn't even get arrested, you'd be pissed. And then that same person killed another one of your family members and nothing happened again. And like they kept doing that until basically all your family is gone, or not all of it, but they've, killed a majority of your family. You'd be fucking pissed and you'd want to fucking riot in the streets too. Like, God, excuse my language, but like, but like shit, dude. Like, I really feel that people need to understand that there's so much depth to what's going on. Like, people are so hurt and angry and frustrated that a, a country that is supposed to be for them and helping them grow has been systematically against them since they were forced to come here, you know? And so it's very uncomfortable right now. It's a very uncomfortable place to be in, arguing with friends. I know you guys are probably fucking tired of seeing these posts, but it's like, can you imagine living that life and being afraid that your life's going to end because you get pulled over? Like, it's just like, recognize your privilege.
And I think it's hard for them because they've never felt it. They're never going to feel it. Like sure there's I'm being discriminated because I'm not wearing a mask. Like mm. But like they try so hard to to discriminate themselves with that mask situation. I'm just like, you'll never know what it feels like. Like even Latin people
Mhm.
um have a little idea. We'll never know exactly how it is to be black, but we have a similar life where we walk somewhere and people look at us and are judging us just based off of
Yeah.
our culture, our skin, our everything about us, what language we're speaking. Then we're judged by that. And white people will never know what that feels like. They'll never know what it feels like. Like, for example, for me, if I go when I was going to West Virginia, predominantly white, like I don't know them, but I was a little scared. Like, how am I going to be perceived over there? And luckily I was perceived really well, so I was okay with it. It was fine. But the fact that I even thought as I'm flying over there, like I hope that people are nice to me. I hope I don't run into like a racist situation or a prejudice against me because I'm Mexican and my family's Mexican.
Yeah.
It was just something that's sad that white people will never have to think about. So if you're you're a Black person, imagine walking down the street, people are automatically switching to the other side because they think something of you that's not even just based off of, oh, they see you and okay, I'm gonna cross the street, or I'm gonna hold my purse closer to me, like, or I'm getting pulled over by the cops. Let me have my hands on the steering wheel so that nothing bad happens. Just because this cop's gonna look at me and they're gonna think that I'm doing something wrong, even though everything is fine. Um,
Exactly.
so where was I going with this? Oh yeah. So they'll never fully understand what it feels like
Yeah,
be judged by how they look. Um, and I think that also doesn't help with them trying to understand because they can't understand that because they've never experienced it. They can
exactly.
try to like, they can try listening to us, but their experience is always going to come into play. Like I've never experienced it, so how bad can it be?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like a lot of it's so funny because we live in an age where social media is very prevalent. And I've seen this from kind of like the dawn of whatever MySpace, right? Where you have this mentality now, especially with things like TikTok, that things grow like so quickly. People have, I don't know, it's like this weird like victim mentality that because it's trendy to be a victim. And I know that sounds weird to say, but I feel like that's the perception. I might be wrong, but that's what it seems like. But because there's this perception of like trendy victim mentality, then it's just like, oh, look at me, like I'm a victim too. And it's just a lot easier to victimize yourself than actually take responsibility and understand that one, like the mask situation, uh, wear a mask in public, okay? So you already know that you're doing something wrong, and instead of taking responsibility for those actions, um, you try to deflect. One, two. I feel I'm like three. Sorry, don't pick up the phone. No, I'm just kidding. Um, but on sorry, I lost my train of thought. Secondly, with the whole conversation around privilege, I see this a lot because I mean I date somebody who's white, and I have dated white right. I was like I have dated white guys in the past. Thankfully, the boyfriend I have now is very good about having these conversations and me saying like you are privileged, even though social privilege and economic privilege are two completely different things. And I think that's where people get upset, especially in the white community, where they say, well, like, hey, wait a minute. I grew up poor and I grew up, in a shack somewhere. This is an actual like quote from somebody, not my boyfriend, but somebody else, where they're just like, I grew up in a shack and I was poor. And what do you mean I'm privileged? And I said, social privilege and economic privilege are two very different things. I grew up economically privileged and somewhat socially privileged as well, Again, I did experience my own set of microaggressions. I was pulled over in my own fucking neighborhood for walking at night by a cop, and it was very terrifying, but it wasn't anywhere near what somebody who's Black would experience at all. But I recognize that. And I think a lot of people are having this uncomfortable learning experience where learning one is very uncomfortable in a lot of ways, especially if you're an adult. But they're starting to recognize that, like, hey, maybe even though I didn't grow up with a lot of money, I was still awarded a lot of privileges in society that got me to a place that is that's above where, like economically speaking. Not always, but I don't know if that makes sense. I feel like I'm rambling now.
No, no, you're not. You're making
Okay, good. So I don't know. I just feel like there needs to be that delineation between the two because I see this argument way too often and recognize when somebody says check your privilege, they don't mean that you grew up wealthy. They don't mean that you grew up, with a lot of things or anything like that. What they mean is that society is not going to cower in fear because of the color of your skin. They're going to treat you relatively, you know, respectfully, I guess. You're not going to be followed around in stores thinking that you're going to steal something. More than likely, you're not going to be racially profiled by a cop. These things are what we talk about when we're talking about privilege.
exactly like what was I gonna say? Like even down to the jury, like based on the color of your skin, you might get a longer prison sentence or a
Hmm.
shorter prison sentence because
Exactly.
of your appearance. Like it's just everywhere, and you don't even realize it's happening.
Yeah. And
And
it's
said, check your privilege. Like I can check mine. I have light skin.
Mhm.
That's one of my privileges.
Yeah, exactly. And like especially, and I think one of the one of the main reasons that I wanted to kind of emphasize that we're both of the Latinx community is the fact that like colorism is such a big deal that people don't even realize it. You know what I mean? So it's like we're white passing, and well, you're more white passing than I am. I'm a little more prietita, but like, but you know what I mean? Like in those situations, like white skin is usually preferred over someone who's darker. You know, we're barely seeing the shift in, you know, in media, but because it's been a long fight for this and people have been tired of like seeing the same five color, you know, light ivory, beige, and warm beige, like you know what I mean? So
Right.
it's important.
Growing up, it was all about being blonde with white skin, blue green eyes. I
Yeah.
remember growing up and just wishing the entire time that my hair was blonde and that my name was Ashley. Like my name's Araceli. Like
Yeah.
so yeah, I just, that's all I would see. So I started perceiving that to be the standard of beauty.
Yeah.
And now that I'm a lot older, I obviously there's much more diversity in pop culture, and I tend to lean more towards like Camila Cabello.
Mm.
Obviously, she's Cuban and she's Cuban Mexican. She's an immigrant. I lean more towards black artists, just just brown artists too. Like I want to learn more about that, and I want to like feel like I'm part of something, because growing up I never felt like I was part of something. I always felt like on the outside, like I'm looking into this window on the TV, the magazines, and I'm seeing these white faces, these blonde faces, and I'm never going to be that. So am I not beautiful? Like I think I barely started feeling like my sense of beauty around high school and college, because that's
Yeah.
when the shift started happening for more diverse pop singers, more diverse stories on television, TV shows. And now it's getting a lot better. And I think it's important that brought it up, that
There you
we
go.
need to see that. We need to see Asian people. We need to see, Muslims. We need to see everything. We need to see it all, because if we're just in this little bubble of white America, then that's what's harming us more. We need to know that there's more out there, that this is a diverse country.
Yeah. Exactly. And I don't think people realize how important it is to see yourself in the media. I didn't even find like that much emphasis on it because I feel like I grew up where my parents were very much like, I don't know, like they took a lot of responsibility for how I saw myself. You know what I mean? My mom was very careful to be like, you're pretty, and but you're not just pretty, like, you know, so thankfully I had that. But then I started getting, like you said, into high school, but my shift went completely opposite where I had this like inflated sense of confidence up until high school. And then I was like, I don't look like any of these bitches out here. Like, I ain't blonde. I'm not cute. I'm like, I got my boobs when I was in middle school. So it's like, I'm real booby and I got a little big booty, you know? So I don't look like any of these people, And around the time it was, I don't even know who was the pop star at the time, but it's true. Like, I didn't really see myself in
Miley Cyrus.
Miley Cyrus. Oh, girl, girl. Miley Cyrus. I definitely don't look like her. Okay. I don't. No shade to her, but I don't. I really don't. But it's, you know, then I started seeing things like later on in college, I think when Beyonce was really like hitting her peak and I was like, holy shit. You know, I don't look like Beyonce either. But, you know, I sure as hell um
You
feel
could relate to her a little more.
but yeah, like I relate to thank you. I was like, can't think of the word relate. Yes. I relate to Beyonce a lot more than I do Taylor Swift. And I love Taylor Swift, but it's just, you know what I mean? So I didn't, and it's so funny because it wasn't until I moved back here to El Paso, growing up in Gilbert, Arizona, again, predominantly white Mormon, where I realized that culture is such an important thing to your identity. Where I know a lot of people are really trying to just be like, well, I'm not just, you know, my culture. I'm not just this. I'm, you know, I'm a person. But it's like, girl, that is a part of your identity, and it should be because you grow and you learn so much from all the things that you learn from your, you know, from your abuela or like from family members like that that you really couldn't pick up from people on TV. So I don't know. It's funny because I know a lot of people really don't see that the importance of having like our skin color, like our type of person in pop music or anything like that. But even now, like seeing people like Rosalia who are just so unapologetically Latina, like she's like, I don't give a fuck. Like I'm gonna make my music in Spanish and I don't give a shit if it doesn't appease to the white demographic. And people are still listening to that shit. Like this bitch is blowing up, you know? You got like the Latinx wave of music is just sweeping the nation and I'm just out here like, yes, like La Raza, you know, like even though and I wouldn't have said shit like that before. Like I would have just been like, cool, like I'm all Latinos, like I don't know,
Let's
Latino.
no, what really shifted my pride in my culture, because I never really had it up until college, which is something else we need to get into, the importance of education. And
Yes.
once I went to college, I accidentally took a Chicano class,
Yep.
uh, and it changed my life. I'm a film minor, right? So it was a Chicano film
Mhm.
class, and I learned so much about my culture that I had no idea.
Yeah.
The term Hispanic is just awful. Like I learned that. It's a government created word to put us in a box.
Mhm.
So, mm. And I just learned so much about like being proud of my Mexican roots,
Yeah.
and it's just important that we hold on to culture. I know a lot of people are like, well, you like choose one. Are you American or are you like Mexican? And it's like, well, no, like I'm American, obviously, but I want to hold on to
Yeah.
like culture, what's in my blood, right? It's important to hold
Exactly.
on to that thing that makes you you, that individuality. So I think
Yeah.
why we need to celebrate what makes people like individuals, and
Yeah, exactly. And it
celebrate black hair, celebrate black music, celebrate just everything about that makes that certain person unique. Sorry.
exactly. No, 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 no. I agree. I feel like especially when it comes to culture, you really don't realize like how amazing it feels to like experience something like a Dia de los Muertos parade or something like that that's just like true to your actual culture. I'm not just Mexican. I think I've mentioned this before. I'm also Chinese, so and a DNA confirmed, guys.
No, I saw
But
you. You're
I'm
so
so excited.
Asian. Had no
I am.
idea.
I am. I was like, I knew it. But you know, I have very small pockets. Oops. Um, of like information of that culture, but I feel just so empowered by both by like my Chinese roots, my Mexican roots. And I like being American. I like being here, but I think to myself, and no shade to America because I'm not trying to be shady, but it's just like, what is our culture? Huh?
Ariana Grande donut moment.
Yeah, exactly. I hate America. No, I don't. Okay, don't. Don't make that a blurb. um, but you know, like having these moments of just sitting back and saying like, shit, like we have these really cool ass cultural moments and like get-togethers, which is like, you know, Lunar New Year for me was such a big deal this year because I was just like, you know what, I have a moment to sit and just be like, get closer to that part of me. And am I going to celebrate Dia de los Muertos? Hell yeah, I am, you know. Like, and these are things that I never celebrated before, but it just makes me feel closer to that side of me. You know, when you grow up in a place where you're just kind of forced to get rid of any kind of cultural identity and make sure, I think I've told this story before, but I used to pretend I was Puerto Rican because, or I would tell people I was Puerto Rican because like being Mexican was essentially like a derogatory thing. Like it was very like,
Is
you're Mexican, you're dirty, you like tacos. I'm like, I do like tacos, but I take a shower every day, okay? Not dirty. I'm not brown because I'm dirty. Like shit
mm,
that you don't even realize. So I don't know. I just feel like now is a really good time with especially with social media to really get back to all these parts that make us, like you said, individual unique. But yeah, but like you were saying, to shift into the education thing, sorry, I like go a mile a minute.
I just want to add something else before
Yeah,
we
go
switch.
ahead, go ahead.
The term melting pot, something else I learned in college. Why is America called a melting pot? Why is New York called a melting pot?
Hmm.
So this is basically what America wants us to do. They want us to all of our little things that make us unique go into one thing and morph together to make a melting pot, make like a stew that
Yeah.
tastes amazing. And I just think how boring life would be if like we didn't have all these different cultures. Like let's get out of that melting pot and
Yeah.
let's celebrate our uniqueness and not put each other down for it.
No, I agree. I feel like oof, I do not want to just eat one type of food for the rest of my life. And I hate to put it that way, but I'm a foodie. And if I have to just eat Mexican food or American food, no, ma'am, I can't do it. I have to have Indonesian food and Chinese food and all the good things. Indian food. I love curry. Shit.
Yes, you have taken me to so many restaurants with different like different things I've never tried, and I appreciate that. I also appreciate you because I remember something. It was you were wearing a kimono. There was a little dance. What was that? You
Oh,
took
no, it was a fan dance for I think it was for Chinese New Year or Lunar New Year. It is actually Cheongsam. So it's but for Chinese as kimonos with Japanese, just
oh,
education.
not
I
a kimono. See, learned something new. What is it called again?
Cheongsam.
Cheongsam.
Yeah, so it's like a traditional cute. I even then I'm not gonna pretend to be the authority on this because I that's all I know.
I honestly, I just thought it was so cool that like you embrace that part of yourself. I just thought that was amazing, and you reminded me of it right now.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice. I still have the dress. Well, it's in there. I haven't worn it. I've gotten a little too big for it, but that's another story.
Same.
Girl, this quarantine's doing me dirty. It's doing me dirty.
Okay,
No,
okay,
but
we'll get on to the
no, but
education.
I love that because I mean, and that was something that I kind of appreciated more in college than anything because growing up, I knew that on both sides of my family, I have Chinese like great grandparents, I think, but it was never really too much embedded into how I grew up. On my dad's side, it's a little bit more prevalent. My grandma is a little bit more true to kind of those cultural things, but not really. Like it's very few. They like sometimes she celebrates Lunar New Year, but it's few and far in between. She celebrates more like Mexican holidays. Good Friday is a big is a big not that that's exclusively Mexican, but it's like big for Mexicans. You know, we always make the like big old spread, um but yeah, like college for me was such a big experience as far as just learning about different people and learning about how to see the world a little bit differently. um well, I don't necessarily disagree with people who say not everybody should go to college. I do feel it is an experience that everybody should have. Even if you're only going to like secondary, like what, like an associates or something, or take classes that are just cultural classes because you'll learn so much about different things. I I kind of took a lot of more, I leaned more towards like Black history and like Asian cultures in college, but it made such a difference because you really start thinking about little things like you were saying, like for the Chicano studies, it was like the Hispanics, right? Like you can't say Hispanic, like that's not politically correct. It's just not correct at all. Like that might be politically, but it's not good to say. Um, or like in Black culture, for a long time, people would say the word colored and or African American or yeah, and don't not everybody is, like all you have Black Latinos who are not from Africa. I mean, maybe like far back, but they don't identify as African American. They're Black Latinos. Do not say colored, please. Having that conversation with my mother who grew up in like the 50s, 60s was like, I don't see why that's such a big deal. And I'm like, because you're not Black. Because you were taught that this is how you should talk to people, and it's not right. So yeah, having those conversations and having those uncomfortable moments in class too, where your own ideas are challenged 100%. You're up to a certain age, you're told that the sky is blue, and then in college they're pretty much like, yeah, but the sky is blue, but it's also like cerulean, and sometimes it's pink, and sometimes it's purple.
Right. Yes.
Yeah,
I agree with that. It's amazing to go to college because then you learn those parts about yourself, you learn those parts about others, you open your mind. Like we both were in lots of literature classes where we had to read
yeah,
about different experiences. Another great thing to do, read. But I think like it's also hard because of the education system that we have in America to say oh, go to college and you'll get educated, because
Mhm.
that might not be the reality for everyone. You might not be able to afford it.
Yeah,
Situation might not allow you to go to college. We were fortunate enough that our situation did, and we went to a really, I think UTEP's a great college. Like
that's
we
great.
got experience from it. So if you're in that situation where you can't go to college, or maybe like there's lots of scholarships, but also obviously the system to go to college and pay for it and
Yeah.
awful too. Everything.
Mhm. Yeah, everything needs to be redone.
But if you can't, there's definitely lots of talks online that you can look at,
Yeah.
and lots of books. So just go for that if college is not the thing. But if you can, I recommend it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you follow like Gary V on online. He's like a big he's like inspirational speaker. He's like a little controversial sometimes because some of the things he says is just like get your head out of your ass and just fucking get to it. And I'm all for it because I need that.
To hear that.
I'm like me, yes. But he does say like it's one of those things where he talks about like not going to college, right? Like not everybody needs to go to college, whatever. Me coming from a place that like I love education, for a long time I was like, no, that's so stupid. Like you should because I learned so much, but it's exactly what you said. It's you may not be awarded the same, financial privileges we do, or even be in a place where the colleges are good or you can't study abroad anywhere, like, but reading is, and it's such a nerd moment, but that is a really great way for you to expand your horizons and expand, just your worldview. Because when you sit and you read like the same, white on this is again why like inclusiveness is very important, because when you're seeing all these different perspectives from people, you get a better understanding of why we're in the state that we're in. Again, shifting back to family members or people that don't understand why people are as angry as they are. But you read, and if you read the books that we've read, you'll be like, oh shit, I'd be pissed off too. Like, so I think it is, while you may not be awarded a formal education, I think it is your responsibility to educate yourself in any way that you can. Outside of the scope of like TikTok or Snapchat or like Instagram, try to branch out or try to look at different things that are not a part of the algorithm that it's created for you. um right now, a really big movement that I'm totally loving is like the Black authors movement, which people are trying to uplift like Black authors voices. So if you feel like you really do, again, it is your responsibility to educate yourself on other people. It is not the Black community's responsibility to educate you. They're just out here putting out their own perspectives. But check out those books, check out, read. Google is a great tool. Google Black authors. Toni Morrison is a great one. Ta-Nehisi Coates, if you guys need recommendations. But it's just, again, it's not necessarily about formal education. It's just educating yourself in general is just a huge responsibility that'll just enrich your life in any way possible.
That was amazing.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you. Off my soapbox now.
it's all right. And books are easily accessible, but maybe not right now because the libraries are closed. I think they're going to
Mhm,
reopen. But that's one way, and it's
mhm.
free.
Yeah. And a lot of libraries, El Paso Library, shout out, have this really cool app that you can download. And I think it's, hold on, I think I have it. Because it's closed, it is, I don't know what it's called. It's called Libby by Overdrive. So you can actually download online versions or digital versions of these books, and you don't have to, not everyone's available, it's true, and sometimes you have to wait. But it's the age of not using any more excuses to, I know y'all are buying a lot of shit on Amazon. Add a book to your carts, because I have, this is not even okay. There's more, and
I
I need a new bookshelf.
have a like boxes of books I still need to bring. I've only unpacked one box of books.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's
books are
embarrassing, right? They're great. And if you don't like reading, because I have plenty of friends that are like, fucking hate reading. Audible, dude. One of my cousins who like she loves learning, but she just like has just a brain that sometimes it's faster than like what she's reading, so she just gets Audible like saved her life. I mean, or any other source. We're not spawn. Hashtag not spawn, but maybe eventually Audible. Just kidding.
Hopefully.
Maybe eventually. um,
With Sarah and Araceli.
hell yeah. Please contact us at no, just kidding. um, so you there are plenty of resources, but I think one of the issues that one of the things that we talked about, I think on Twitter, we like not you said something about Gen Zers that I'm like obsessed with right now because they're
I
gonna
love
save
them.
the world. I love them so much. Some of them are a little feisty, but I was feisty too when I was that age.
They love us deep
They
down.
do.
We set the stage for them. And then
We
we
do.
are literally I'm literally like so close to their age that
Yeah. No,
scary.
it's funny because my boyfriend is, yeah, like he's a little bit closer to, I think he's like right on the cusp of, I don't even know what a millennial, but I don't even, he might be a Gen Zer. Ew. I'm all, not to call myself out. I kind of robbed the cradle a little bit. I'm 29 and he is 23. But I don't feel aged. We just met like last year. Okay. It wasn't a weird like grooming moment before I get called out. All right. But
Yeah, no, don't call her at we
no.
met at appropriate age.
No, it was. But like one thing that it's just so funny because I just see just even in like him, I see such like a passion and drive that I didn't have at that age. That where I was just like, la la la, everything's gonna be fine, and I have, again, economic privilege and whatever. Like I'll just figure it out. And he's just so like, like focused on like, I don't even know. It blows my mind. So I see that a lot with a lot of Gen Zers right now that they're just so like, this world needs to change and we're
They
gonna
were
fucking change.
forced to grow up fast.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, dude. Cause I feel like I act a lot younger than him and he's a lot younger than me. And he's sometimes an old man and I love it. He's sometimes like,
They're the fortunate ones.
yes. There are some Gen Zers that y'all crazy, okay? Y'all out here wildin'. But I love you. As mama still loves you. Auntie Sarah, Auntie Sarah still loves you.
Oh yeah, I love it. I think they're hilarious. I think
So
they're
funny.
smart. They're so inclusive. Like
Yes. I see them like I hopped on the TikTok train like pretty early when it was still like cringe TikTok, okay?
we were like the only ones. We were like, hey,
Dude, I was like, check out this weird cringy TikTok, but I love it. But they're so like creative and it's just like it's not even just Gen Zers on that platform, obviously, but I've seen so many of them that are obviously a lot younger that'll jump on people's like comment section that are just like stopping such a dick. Like if they see people that are just being rude, I love that accountability because I feel like I mean, I speak for myself here, but I've seen it where we get uncomfortable with confrontation and Gen Zers are not uncomfortable. They're like, I'm gonna fucking tell you to your face that you're bitch ass like for saying some racist ass shit. I need to get the fuck out. And I'm over here like, how do I tell my potential mother-in-law that
so you're like
teach me your ways, please? Exactly.
yeah. And then I love that they're super like body positive.
Hmm.
Like I mean, I know you hear about like how Charlie and Addis they're like the top TikTokers that they get body
Hmm.
shamed. I'm sure that's like
Yeah.
not even the majority. I see so many plus size girls on TikToks that do dances and
Yeah.
everyone uplifting them. And I just think like that's what we need. More people that are inclusive with
Yeah.
different people.
Exactly. I hear the conversation too much, especially with excuse me. I get hiccups. I'm sorry, excuse me. Um body positivity. What was right. Okay. I've heard a lot of conversations before centering around like plus size girls that it's just like, well, is that like a healthy thing and blah blah blah. And it's just like we're redefining a completely new definition of what's healthy because if we see somebody who's very thin, automatically we're going to assume that that person's quote unquote healthy. Girl, have you ever heard of eating disorders? Like, shit, I've known a few people who've had eating disorders and that is not healthy at all. That mentality of constantly like worrying about your weight and your size, but it's been, it's coming from what we see in the media. We see these thin models with, again, nothing wrong, but like sometimes these body types are unattainable for women who are just predisposed to having bigger bodies. Like, hello, like, you know And so I think it's great that people are just shifting that conversation to be able to say like we need to just have a whole new discussion on what we think is healthy. And also what I've loved recently regarding that topic is with the whole, oh my god, I almost called her Addison, Adele. With Adele losing weight, I saw a lot of people on my TikTok jumping on and saying like it's not our right to say anything about anybody's body. It's not our responsibility. It's not having anything to do. If the people close to her believe that she's having an eating disorder, again, not saying that that's what happened, but if in those situations, if people close to her are saying that that's healthy or unhealthy and they have, that's for her to work out. It's not for the rest of us to comment on. It's none of our goddamn business. And we need to not make it our business and move on and talk about things that are uplifting,
Yeah. I mean, you're never gonna please anyone. The
Mm-mm.
people had a problem with her before, people have a problem with her now. I think it's just not something to comment on because it was so drastic.
Yeah.
And I mean, until she speaks out on it herself, like that's when you can say, "Oh, well, you look amazing." Like I think the thing is to uplift people. Like you are a good person. You're so talented. You you're a ray of sunshine. You make me happy. I'm talking to you.
Oh, ew.
But
Let's shut it. Just
I I saw this TikTok from
kidding. Yeah.
Lizzo.
Mm-hmm.
So plus size, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, you don't know, you don't know that I'm working out all the time. And she's like working out in the video. She's like, and I'm working for the body type that I want. And the body type I want is none of your business, which is so
Exactly.
our business. We should just be uplifting her for the person that she is. And I think she's a really great person, like to
Yeah.
send that message out. And just because someone's thin, I mean, thin person might be healthy, right? But I've seen plenty of thin people that are out at the bars every day drinking, binge drinking. I'm like, is that healthy? Whereas,
That's the tea right there, guys.
like, there's someone who might have be a little overweight that's works out, goes for a run every day, and is eating the right things. Sometimes indulges in ice cream here and there, whatever. But it's like you can't just look at someone and assume
Yeah.
they're healthy or not.
Yeah.
You just never know.
No, exactly. And it's like I don't know. It's funny because I I see a lot of people who like emulate again, which is why again representation is so important. We go back to the same thing, but it's like it's so important because I see a lot of people who like emulate like the Kardashians, for instance, okay? Which all power to them. I have no shade for the Kardashians. I think their hustle is great. I think sure, whatever, Chris to be able to turn five quote unquote talentless women into into multimillionaires slash billionaires is a talent in itself, okay? But I think the importance there is like having a little bit more transparency as to like how unattainable.
That was mine. Sorry.
Okay, I was like, what was that?
Someone
Um,
sent in their assignment. I'm doing summer school. Let me quit that.
okay,
They're gonna start sending stuff in. Okay.
no, it's okay. Um, what was it? Oh, the Kardashians. That there needs to be more of a transparency as to like how unattainable those bodies are without surgery, guys. Surgeries are a real thing, and Kim Kardashian does not have a natural ass, and I hate to break it to you, and this may be controversial, and I don't think our podcast is big enough, or even like I don't even know how many people. I don't care if she comes after me. Okay, those are butt injections. You need to know. And that's fine. I know plenty of people who have had work done. I want to get work done. Okay. It's not a big deal. Work is great. If you see something that you want to fix on yourself, fucking do it. I don't care. But like, don't go around telling people this shit's all natural and that you don't have five trainers training you every single day and you don't have a nutritionist and you don't basically do anything else but work out and eat healthy all day. Some of us have jobs. Okay. Like, a lot of my friends are teachers, and I don't expect any of you guys to be like Kim Kardashian body type. Okay. For the fact that I see some of you guys even working out, I'm like, oh, you doing America's work with the kids already, and you're working out and you're eating healthy, you live in your best life. So I don't know. I just feel like thankfully, because of people like Lizzo, that I know that a lot of people have something to say about her size or her body type. It's just like she's important to the conversation because at least she's out here perpetuating an image that's a lot more, real than not to call them fake, but you know what I mean? Like that's just more genuine to what other people are actually portraying. If you want to be, again, you want to get work done, get it done. I don't give a shit. Like nobody cares. But say that you got work done instead of just being like, oh no, these lips are real, I promise. Like, I
No,
can't even. My lips are so
no,
tiny.
it just grew overnight.
It's magic.
No,
No,
but
for real.
I think like it's important. Like Taylor Swift, back to the documentary, we keep going in circles, but like you said, it's gonna keep going in circles. Taylor Swift was always skinny, stick
Hmm.
thin, right? Finally, in that documentary, she admitted she wasn't eating the way she was supposed to.
Yeah.
She was trying to put up this image that she thought everyone wanted of her, and she was making herself feel bad to be able to look that way. She was like a dead inside, and
Yeah.
she says now she eats what she wants. She's heavier, but she's happier, and it's just like that Taylor Swift, that stick thin Taylor Swift wasn't real. It was starvation, you know.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
it's all to be living up to this weird expectation that society has on everyone.
And it's just like, again, they are unrealistic expectations. And body dysmorphia is a very real problem that most of us face, whether we don't realize. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I don't know where I was going, but it is a very real thing. But it's like you said, Taylor Swift was like the perfect ideal image for that kind of era. And she grew up, and girl, you know how hard it is to lose weight when you're in your 30s. Taylor Swift's 30 already, right? Yeah. She's close
Yeah,
to, yeah,
turned 30.
she just turned 30. So I'm pushing 30. Okay. It gets harder after 25. All right. Goes downhill. But it gets harder. Like your body metabolizes differently. And if you're seeing, even as a young age, you have a different metabolism than girls that are thinner, younger, whatever. It's just important to know that this is real. And I think I had a friend actually who talked to me about doing the same challenge that like Beyonce did for Coachella, which was no sugar, no, like a vegan diet based. I don't even know, okay? But I was like, I had to talk this person down. And I was just kind of like, okay, one, she has to perpetuate a certain image for Coachella, okay? One. Two, um she again gets paid to do this kind of stuff. And three, that you need to talk to a nutritionist to make sure that you're not going to underfeed yourself, you know what I mean? Like it's not, I think people focus too much on like trying to look skinny and not realizing that like,
It's what you feel inside,
yeah,
and like,
you're gonna, I
but
know.
I'm doing this like meditation thing. I'm on this journey right now, just trying to forgive myself. If I
Yes.
don't work out, it's fine. I'll be okay. As long as I'm happy, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Like, or if I am working out and I didn't do the whole thing correctly, at least I tried. Like I'm learning to be very forgiving of myself
Yeah.
and not put myself to these high expectations like you're going to lose 30 pounds and you're going to look like this. Like no, I just need to feel better and just work on myself and live in the moment and just work to be better and healthier,
Yeah,
not skinnier.
that's a perfect way to approach it. I feel like the goals that we need to have are just like, how do I make myself either happier in terms of like things that are in my life that are toxic? How do I eat health? Like for me, it's a health thing. My mom unfortunately passed away from pancreatic cancer, and it just made me completely shift my perspective because you just sit there and you watch this person, not to get too deep, but like you watch this person slowly wither away, and it's sad and it's scary. And so I'm like, all right, I need to start eating a lot better because hopefully the changes that I make now are going to change my cellular structure, whatever. I don't know how this works, but and prevention again versus eating what, like one meal a day and eating like five crackers and like a chicken breast and dry rice. Hell no, girl, I love food. Like you see me out here, all the shit that I make is semi healthy. I try not to overdo it with like fried shit or like sweetened dressings, but it's like my shift right now isn't necessarily trying to get skinnier, even though I am I am doing a challenge with my brother and sister-in-law, but like that's different, you know what I mean? But just trying to shift that mentality into like, okay, what is my version of healthy? And I know eating McDonald's every single day is not healthy. I know eating out every day isn't healthy. That's why I gained however much I gained in quarantine, but I know
Hello.
I was like 15 pounds. I just come on.
I think
I was, yeah.
I gained about 10 pounds in quarantine.
Dude, it's been rough. But one of the things that my therapist was talking about was like, girl, this is not a normal situation. And we need to remember that these are not normal circumstances. This is a not, we're not supposed to be locked in the house all the time. This is
Mhm.
something that even the generation before us didn't experience. Nobody's experienced this in the last, since 1912, I think. So it's not, and it's like you said, learning to forgive yourself for little things that you think you need to be harder on yourself for. And that's one thing that she's told me a lot is just, dude, life is hard. And sometimes your parents really affect the way you were brought up. And even though you might not think that it was toxic, it sometimes might be, but that's not your fault. Now you're trying to learn how to be this adult and be a little bit more forgiving to how you go about in the world. It's nice.
Oh my gosh, I got to you.
I know. Therapy is great, guys. Honestly, if you can go to therapy, if you can afford it, it's awesome. I know. Oh, see, now I'm noticing. I'm like, oh, I say things that are so privileged. Like, if you can afford it, if you can afford
Like
therapy,
that's what I realized earlier with the college thing. I was like, well, not everyone can. Like,
yeah,
the healthcare system doesn't allow everyone to be able to
yeah,
afford therapy.
yeah,
It's
exactly. The good news is if you live in El Paso, there are really great programs for free therapy. There's like a lot of Project B that I think does like sliding scale. There are a lot of really good new outlets, so like online versions of therapy that'll work with you and work with your budget. Um, I'll link some if I can remember who they were, but I know that there's a lot of different avenues now. So that is another thing. I'm all therapy, education, and accountability. That's literally.
it's like everything that you're feeling is like it's
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
It's
And
okay to
people,
say.
yes. And I think like I know I've had this issue before. I have a very bad habit of being like, you need to do this because I think it's best for you. And it's just my inner Aries. And y'all already know, okay, my close friends know, like it's just how I am. And
I
I'm
saw
working
this
on it.
post. It was like, you should be taking the advice you give. Like you and that friend that giving advice to each other.
Yep.
You take your own advice.
Dude, I've worked years to even get to the point of me being like, I give some pretty good advice that is actually for me and not for other people. I'm all like, I'm starting to project. I think that's what's going on. I'm all giving boy advice. I'm like, stop being such an idiot and stop fucking calling him. And
Have
like,
you noticed? I'm just gonna interrupt you for a second. Have
yeah,
you noticed that since we've gotten into relationships that are like solid, we haven't
yeah,
been giving advice anymore?
dude, no. Okay, hold on. It's that, but also my tolerance for girls. Okay, I'm sorry if I say the word bitches a lot. I don't mean it in a derogatory sense. I mean it like you my bitch, like in a good way sometimes. But I see a lot of my friends. I won't name drop because I don't know who's gonna be watching this, but I'm all like on the low. I'm all texting you. No, I'm just kidding. But I've noticed that I've gotten to the point that I don't even have tolerance for like the people who are just making the same mistakes. That I'm pretty much just like, look, I love you, and I know you're gonna fucking call him again, and I know you're gonna go back to him, and I'm tired of sitting here and telling you what to do. But here's what I did to be in a healthy relationship. I stopped making excuses for dudes. That's pretty much it. I was just like, nope.
It's
Mm-mm.
true though. We
Yeah.
kept making excuses for them,
Mhm.
and then when we met you, well, you have Perry, I have Bo. It's like we met them, and they just are so there. I don't need to make an excuse.
Yeah.
So it's like, man, that was it all along.
That
I
was
don't need to advice for.
the dude, that's so funny because I have these moments where I'm like, shit, like this dude really out here, he's fucking different. Like he's so different. But it was literally like I had to stop. And again, I'm a big proponent of like the universe knows everything. Excuse me. And I was like just holding on to this one specific person that was just, it was, first of all, we weren't even dating. Okay. We were just hooking up. I'm just gonna be honest. But I love this dude so much. And I don't know why. I feel like I clung on to like a lot of the small things that made our dynamic work so well that I hadn't gotten before. I come from a line of like, one, growing up with my mom being in shitty ass relationships. So that's gonna form exactly how you feel about things. And having my own line of shitty ass relationships. And then finally waking up one day and being like, the fuck is wrong with you? Like, bitch, you deserve the world, okay? And this dude does. I was thinking about this today, actually. I was driving down the road passing the movie theater, and I was like, he didn't even want to take me to like a movie that wasn't like a popular movie because I'm like, is it because he didn't want us to be seen together? And that's so ugly. Like, you know, I, and like for a while, I had a friend who was pretty much like, well, it's because like culturally you guys were just so different, and like in his culture, you know, it's more they predominantly marry within their same culture. So I won't name I won't name,
I know.
but you know what I mean? So it's like, was that part of it? Was it just, I don't know, but at a certain point I had to just be like, why am I going to sit around and wait for some dude who like doesn't want to be with me, clearly. Like he likes the idea of us like hooking up. And I did too for a long time. I was like, it's fine. We're just hooking up. It's not a big deal. Like whatever. No, it was a big deal. I was in love with this dude, and it was very obvious to everybody except me, apparently. So as soon as I literally just was like, I'm not fucking doing this anymore, and I stopped making excuses for dudes. I went on plenty of dates after, but then I found this dude that I didn't want to go on a date with because he was so different that right? I was like, ugh, ew, like he's white. And like I hate to say it, but that's literally, I was like, white people are so scary sometimes. And like I've dated white guys and I'm afraid, and no. And then like we met up and it was just so like, oh my God, like this is my person. Like he's so funny and he's so weird, and like we like the same shit. And then I don't know. So now we live together.
I know it. And me too. Yeah, I had this moment yesterday. He doesn't even know. He might be listening.
Hi, Bo.
But like sitting on the floor eating lunch, I think, or dinner, and we were just watching TV and like being goofy like together. And I was like, oh my God, this is what I always wanted, and I'm living it right now. You know,
Yeah.
it literally hit me like I'm so happy. Like, you know.
Oh,
Oh God.
ew. I'm all, let it be known, everybody, that when I saw Araceli with her dude, with her beau, it's so cute. I was like, this is so different. Like I could just tell right away. I saw you guys together because you guys started dating before P and I started dating. And oh my God, I'm sorry. There's a bug here. I'm sorry. I'm just like, I get grossed out with bugs.
That's why I killed a bug right now. Like I grabbed a paper and I was just. Hopefully she didn't notice.
I didn't. I'm sorry. But I saw you guys and I was just like, the difference in your dynamic was just so like, you had this like glow about you that was just so like, I'm like, this bitch is so in love and she's so happy. Like you can really see, you know, we've known each other for 5 years, and in 5 years a lot happens. Okay.
Oh yes.
So my mom, girl.
We should just do like relationships podcast.
Oh, that's another, I feel like that's a whole other podcast for another day, because I can go on and on about.
One episode could just be you, one episode could just be, and we were there for most of it.
Yes, dude. Oh my God, there's another bug in here. Okay, I'm sorry. Lights and I have windows open, but stop making excuses for dudes. Okay, take responsibility, but don't take too much responsibility. That's one thing I think that I'm learning too, is like, you can't, just because somebody acts in a certain way towards you, like that's not your fault. You know, it's not, unless you explicitly were like, fuck you, I fucking hate you, and they turn around, they're like, I fucking hate you, you're a bitch. Like, obviously, something you did there. But you know, I don't know. Again, that's a whole other. We got to go into that different one. But yeah.
Wow, we really like we did the.
I know. And it all comes back around. Well, cool. This is fun. I feel like this is a good place to kind of drop off a little bit. I don't even know how long we've been. I don't know. It won't tell me. Um, but this is fun. So I think I don't know. We'll see what kind of format we do. This is kind of just a it's like talking, it's like rambling,
Yeah.
like
Um,
educating.
we had our topic about the Black Lives Matter and whole situation with the police and all that. And I think it's interesting because that whole conversation led to these other conversations because everything's kind of connected, like in a way.
Everything.
We connected it to education. We connected it to how we perceived ourselves because we weren't seeing ourselves in the media. And so, just like think about it. This one movement has a connection to so many parts of our lives,
Yeah.
and it can change the life for everyone. It can change our life, the life of every single human, and it's all centered around giving Black people the love and respect that they deserve and the safety that they should feel. I saw this TikTok, again, TikTok,
I love it.
where it was talking about, I think, how Koreans say Black Lives Matter. I can't
Yes. How
get
they say like Black lives are precious because like
yes.
they're worthy of being protected. And I thought that was so beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's a
So
very
I think that's how, if you're having trouble thinking like Black Lives Matter and you're like, don't understand it, just think about what Sarah just said. Like, Black lives are precious and they should be protected because right now they're not being perceived as precious and
yeah.
they are definitely not being protected. So
Yeah.
we need to stand up for them. If you're not Black, you need to be an ally and you need to speak out for them. And you need to try your hardest to sign petitions, to donate your money if you are able to, and you're healthy, and you're going to quarantine after, protest, and keep a mask on, please.
Yes.
And just be outspoken. I'm outspoken on all topics on Facebook. I don't care, at work too.
She is.
And it's just like, maybe that's my privilege too, that I'm able to do that
Mhm.
because I'm not afraid that something's going to happen to me because um, I that's just who I am, and they know that I'm outspoken on that part, and that I'm not gonna cross the line where I make people feel bad for their beliefs, but I am gonna let them know mine,
Yeah.
and that's what I gotta say on that. That's me. So I just wanted to point that out, that the whole Black Lives Matter conversation led into the rest of our conversations because it directly affects everything.
Yes. It is everybody's responsibility, and I will say it loud and proud. Everyone's responsible for making the people on this planet feel safe and loved and appreciated. And I understand that a lot of people don't have the upbringing that we had, but you also don't know the kinds of upbringings we had. You also don't know everybody's story, and not everybody's story is so, for lack of a better word, black and white. The only thing that is not arguable is racism, but unfortunately, I do understand it. I'm not making an excuse for it. I'm not saying it's right, but I understand why these people come to the conclusions that they come to, and it's so I feel like what I'm seeing right now is such a huge disconnect of us versus them. And yes, like there should, at this point, I think people are just tired. But you also need to understand when you're having the one on one moments with somebody who is actually trying to, or at least will let you educate them to a certain extent, while you may perceive a certain extent of racism, they're the way that they think is just a product of their upbringing as well. So a little bit more compassion to how people think and how people learn. But again, no excuses for shit like that. Like it's just it's not right. And standing your ground and saying like, you know, like fuck this, like I'm not gonna fucking put up with it. Don't, But when you do have these more intimate moments, it's kind of a better way for you to stop and say like, is this person going to let me educate them? Yes, cool. If not, just drop your 2 cents. And if you find yourself in an argument, just go.
Leave. I think it's better to leave because
Yeah.
I've seen it just goes in circles, you're not making your point, they're not making their point.
Mm-mm.
It's not helping anyone. It's just creating more anger and
Yeah.
frustration.
And you don't
Like,
need
just leave it. Let the conversation breathe.
yeah,
Feel that you want to discuss it with the person again on a later date, go for it. But
sure.
come at it with a, like,
Yeah.
respectful listening attitude, because if you're like, listen here, like,
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that you're, again, person's mind that you're not going to probably change is like the Karens of the world that are very so, like, their beliefs are so indoctrinated in their own belief system. It's just don't, it's not your responsibility to educate, well, granted, my minority people, it is not your responsibility to educate the white demographic. However, white people, it is your responsibility to educate your own demographic, and y'all need to start stepping up. And that's what I'm going to say on that. I dropped the mic, but legit, like, I think minorities were fucking tired of it. Like, I'm tired again with this one white conversation that I had. I was like, you don't get it, dude. We've been talking for like 20 minutes and you still don't understand why this is wrong. But with her, it was a very specific moment where she was like, and I pretty much had to be like, look, it's your responsibility to sit back and shut the fuck up. Like, no disrespect, but so just, I don't know. I think we're all hurting right now and we all need to uplift our Black brothers and sisters, and our non-binary brothers and sisters. I don't know if that's correct. I don't think, but you know what I mean. I'm not, I'm trying to be
our,
as PC as
our
possible.
non-binary siblings.
Yes, siblings. Thank you. See, I'm learning too, girl. I didn't come from an age where non-binary was a thing, but I respect that somebody doesn't want to be called she or he. Fine, that's your prerogative. Again, another.
That's another conversation.
I know. I was like, another conversation for another day. But with that, so we'll leave you guys here. Just we're gonna try to do this like a weekly thing, hopefully. And any other topics, if you guys have any suggestions, feel free to DM myself or Odyssey. I think I'll put your info. I don't know how I'm gonna do this. I don't know what platform. You'll find a way. Comment. I don't know. Like, subscribe. Anyway, this is the No Name podcast for now.
Maybe we should just go with no name.
No Name. I'm gonna look it up. The No Name podcast. I don't know.